Thank you. Whoever that was that gave us some feedback a minute ago about volume, please do that again if you can't hear it. You're wasting your time if you can't hear the thing that's saying. What is a storage stick? Well, you're all familiar with a stick that looks sort of like this. That's a measuring stick, and a storage stick is a measuring tool. And this stick would make a good storage stick if we ran it through the drum sander and got all those nasty numbers off of it. Because we don't need the numbers for a storage stick. That's the beauty of a storage stick. I want to show you an example of the classic way that a storage stick has been used in the past. For laying out cabinets in a home, for instance. This is the way they did it before they had all the new laser measuring devices and so on. And the person that had a cabinet shop somewhere, you go into somebody's home, use a storage stick, and lay out the whole set of cabinets on a stick. Never use a measuring tape. I have a stick here that I'm going to go over. We'll have to turn the camera around. And I'll show you how the stick is used. And that's the basis of all the storage sticks. I have several versions here. I'm going to move over to the corner of the room. And this is the storage stick. There are no marks on it. That's important. If you have marks on it, erase them before you start, because you'll confuse them later. Take a stick, go all the way to the corner of the room where you want to lay out your cabinets, and then you make a mark. For instance, there's a door or a window you have to work around, and make a mark right there, and you light on it so you know what it is. Oh, I'm going to go around this door, so let me make another mark here. And I'm going to end my cabinets right here. So I'll make a mark there. And I make those marks carefully, because you're going to take this back to your shop. And you're going to make the whole set of cabinets with very close tolerances without looking at any feet and inches. You save yourself a lot of trouble by not having to look at the feet and inches. Suppose I wanted to cut out a place for this cable. I could mark that, right on there what that is. If I have a receptacle, an electrical receptacle, plumbing, whatever, I can put it all on here. Now, where this really comes in handy for folks who build ships and boats, everything is curved. So they have to take a couple of sticks and lay out the full set of cabinets, then go back to the shop where they have the power equipment to actually make the cabinet. So this is a basic storage stick. It's just a stick. It has no numbers on it. You write on it, you lay out the whole set of cabinets using this. This is one type of storage stick. What are some other reasons for using a storage stick other than portability? One is there's no cumulative error. Cumulative error occurs when you make a bunch of measurements and then later try to add them up. If I measure to the edge of that door and I'm off by a 1/16 of an inch, I measure to the edge of this in this case a whiteboard, and I'm off by another 1/16 of an inch. Now I've got an 1/8 of an inch that I missed by, and that cabinet's not going to fit. Cumulative error. Another thing too is you're familiar with the tape measures. And this little thing on the end that slides in and out, that's there for a reason, and it slides in and out for a reason, so you can take inside or outside measurements and still have accurate measurements.
Zoom in there, Bob.
Suppose this thing has been hit a couple of times by accident with a hammer, that thing won't slide. Now you got another error. Also, sometimes people measure from the 1 inch mark out to whatever measurements they want. And then some of us forget to add back that inch. That creates an issue. So cumulative error, the accuracy of the tape measure itself, by the way, some of those are not real accurate. Another example I want to show you that's a very practical one. We'll see a picture of this particular bench that I did this on in just a minute. There was a gentleman that he made a bench, but he did not have the vise completed yet. And his only plans were photographs of this particular vise. Well, his bench is 4 to 5/16 inch thick as compared to about 1.5 inches on this particular bench. And so all of the dimensions had to change. Well, he's moving to a new home, and he sold all his power tools. He asked me if I would help him make the vise, but my house is 8 miles away. So I went over and used a story stick, measured thickness. There's a slot in the side of this, in the edge of this bench here. That slot has to be precisely located if this vise is going to work. So I marked the slot on the stick. The width of the tail vise has to be the same, so I marked it on there. The length needs to be the same. Some people use this part of the vise to clamp something. Technically, you're not supposed to, but it's convenient. And I wanted to be sure that if this part of the vise closed, this part of the vise was near closed, not completely closed. So I measured the length of that. I got all the dimensions I needed, and then went back to my shop, where I did not have access to his bench to make more leverage. And I made the vise, and in a minute we'll see the vise in part of the slide presentation. It worked out well. What you don't see in that vise is the dog hole. So you may wonder what uses the tail vise without dog hole. You just haven't drilled them yet. If you use a stick, your measurements are very accurate. First of all, start with a sharp pencil. And that's one of the reasons. But there's some other uses. For instance, if you're a turner, you can lay out a story stick or a pattern. A lot of turners use this when they're making repetitive parts. Every place there is a point of inflection, a major diameter, minor diameter, a tenon, whatever. They'll mark those on the story stick, and then they pull out the story stick each time they get ready to turn a piece. That way they're all identical. You're making a set of chairs, you want all the pieces to be identical. So that's one of the things you can use them for. Now, I want to show you a couple of different kinds and a couple of different measurements. Not only is it a way to mark up things that you're measuring, but it's a way, for instance, to check to see if your door boxes are square. This happens to be a sliding story stick, and I'll show you a couple of versions of that in a minute. You slide out, you take a corner-to-corner measurement, and then, without changing anything, you check corner to corner, and you'll find out if your door box is square on the back of the cabinet. It gives you a way to do it. That's very easy. This one's not perfectly square, but I know what I need to do to straighten it out. I need to put a clamp corner to corner. I can pull it in the square before the glue sets. So you can do that kind of measure. But how would you do that with tape measure? And probably most of you use tape measures to do this. So you start from a 1-inch mark, and you hold it up there, and you say, that's 21 and 5/8 and half of one of those little bitty marks. And then you go over here, you take this measurement, wait a minute, it was 21 and 5/8. Was it one of those little bitty marks or half of one, whatever? Anyway, you stick. You don't have to go back and recreate that. It's there for you already. Another use for a measuring device like a stick, I have a groove here that a drawer will fit in. Most of the time, you'll have the groove on 3 sides of the drawer box, and then you can slide the drawer in and put a screw in it. That's the way the drawer bottoms are normally put in. I make some boxes where I glue the bottoms into these slots. They're not solid wood, they're plywood with veneer on them. I want to know exactly how wide that slot is. It's going to be real hard to take a tape measure and go to the bottom of that groove to the bottom of this groove. You can do some arithmetic and measure inside to inside and add 1/4 inch in depth, but maybe your bit wasn't set just right. Whenever you made the 1/4 inch deep groove. So you'd like to really know what it is. Kelly Maynard says, measure from actual, not from the plans. Once you get underway, you don't measure from the plans anymore, you measure from actual. Okay, so you take this, bottom to bottom, take a pencil mark, take it out, align the pencil mark, which you can't see over the camera, line the pencil mark and clamp it at the pencil mark. Go back and check it again to make sure you're exactly right. Then you take that stick and you go to your table saw and you set the fence by using this stick. How many inches is it? I don't care. It's the right size. So I use a story stick for that. There are many different ways you can make these story sticks. These are just sticks, okay? I was joking about rounding the numbers off of the yardstick, but you don't need numbers on there to start off with. You can just take almost any kind of a straight stick and mark on it. And this, it's going to be hard to see on the camera. There's some pencil marks on this stick. Each of those locates a drawer in a cabinet that I made. And you know, to get the drawers evenly spaced, you spend a little time, you measure, you check, you can mark on the door, the cabinet case itself, or you can lay it all out on the storage stick. Look at it, and if you don't like the way it's laid out, do it again. And once you have it, you make this storage stick the same length as the inside height of your cabinet, and you use this to lay out all the hardware, drill the holes, and mount the drawers, and lay out the false fronts for the drawers. And you never know what all those dimensions are in terms of inches, but you really don't care. You care that it's laid out accurately and it results in the symmetry that you want. And I use this one for exactly that. And it's just this happens to be a piece of oak. I like to use maple because it's easier to see the numbers of it. Yep. There's another way to use storage sticks. It's similar to what I just explained, but the shortest one I have, that one right there. I want to cut the back for a cabinet. You're also familiar with some plywood backs and cabinets. Typically, you use a 1/4 inch and you put it in a rabbet. And you take the inside measurement. That's 50 long. These two will be fine. You take inside the inside to fit in a rabbet, and then you cut your back. You set your saw up using the storage stick. Don't bother with the tape, don't need it. You can check here. You can check here to see if it's going to be square. So that when you cut the piece, it will fit in there. And you fit that down in the rabbet on the tip set of kitchen cabinets, and then you glue or staple it in, or however method you use to attach it in. Suppose you'd like to not have to hold on to these sticks and slide them back and forth. Here's a method, a set of sticks. The hardware is made by, it's Lee Valley product, but they call it Veritas. And it has a fastening device built into it. So you can fasten it and then check the other set of dimensions for square. Now you need several sizes of these because this one is kind of long within this neck measurement. So you'll need some that cover a given set of lengths, whatever you're normally working with, and then some longer ones. You can buy this hardware for a few dollars, take a 1/4 inch stick, in this case maple, and attach the hardware to it, and it makes a really nice set of measuring sticks. And I used that when we built some habitat cabinets once to measure the plywood pieces to go in the back of the cabinet, and they came out dead on. And they will, because we've got the actual real measurements, not 22 and one of those little bitty ones. There's another way to make measuring sticks that I came up with myself. I haven't seen this anywhere else. And so there's a lot of twists and turns to it as I figured out how to do it. What we have here, and we'll see it on the PowerPoint presentation in just a minute. We have a dovetail groove and a dovetail that slide together. You might think that's difficult to make, but if you do it in the right sequence, it's not difficult at all if you have a round table. If you don't, there's a really good sign. Okay. real good router table here at the Gill that would work wonderfully for this, and mine is exactly like it. So you see there's a dovetail on this part, the dovetail groove on this part, and they slide together. And once I made them, I just had two sticks with square ends. I realized I really would like to have a point on each end. So I came up with a method of putting the point on each end, and then I really gilded the lid by making them so that they come out flush whenever you push them all the way through. You really don't have to do that part. You can make them so they end up like that. Okay. Now I want to show the PowerPoint presentation. And I want to show you how I made these sliding sticks. I was working with a guild member in my shop one day and pulled these out. And he wanted to know how to make them, and he thought it would be a good topic for today, and that's why we're here today. You have it up yet?
No.
Okay. Do I see it up here?
You will.
Okay. All right. There it is. Okay, next slide here. Okay, this is the tail lice I made for this gentleman, and you can see how thick it is, over 6 inches in thickness, and there were no plans, there were no drawings or anything. There was photographs of this particular bench that I'm standing in front of, and he made it from a photograph, which I thought was quite an accomplishment. I borrowed a set of plans that this bench in the shop here was made from Mike Keith, and I used it to understand the mechanism in the vise. And then I took the measurements from the storage stick, and I went home and made the parts and took it back and put it up on the bench and attached it, and it works very well, by the way. Okay, next slide. Okay. All that is, it shows you the dovetail bit and the router table. Next slide. Okay. I'm setting up in this particular case, these boards are 3/4 inch thick. They have to be maple, and they be anywhere from 3 to 6 inches wide. Not critical. But I'm setting up that router bit in the center of that board. You try to get it as close to centered as you can, but if you want the groove dead in the center, all you have to do is to run the board across the router bit, turn the board end for end, and run it across again, and the dovetail groove will be centered. So don't have to worry about that beyond that. Next slide. Okay, now I'm getting ready to make the cut. And next slide. Right, there's the groove. Those are dovetail grooves resulting from that cut. You can see how the bit goes right down the middle. Next slide. Now, I'm setting up the bit now to make the dovetail on the other side of this same board. Actually, I have 2 boards, so I'm making 2 of these at the same time. So I don't change the height of the bit. You can change it, but if you do, you don't drop it down more than a few thousandths of an inch. Definitely don't want to go any higher. If you work through this, you'll see why. You don't leave it the same height and drop it down a tiny amount. That provides clearance in height for the sliding dovetail. I would suggest you leave it the same height. Next slide. Okay, now I'm ready to make the cut. And you make this first cut knowing that the tail is going to be a little bit too wide. You make it too narrow, you got to start again. But it's going to be a little bit too wide. And you make that cut, and then you keep inching the fence over until the tail you get fits precisely in the socket you made. See, I'm using one board with a socket in it, the sliding dovetail groove to fit over the dovetail on the other. And I do that until move the fence over just a little until I get a good sliding fit. Okay, now I have the essence of it made. So now I rip a piece off each edge, so I end up with a thin piece. Make it whatever thickness you want. These are probably 3/8 of an inch thick. rip those two pieces off. Next slide.
This is the next one. That is it.
Okay. Now I have those two thin pieces, I slide them together, and the essence of the stick is made. But I like to have a pointed end on it, and you can see, if you just cut an angle and make a point on that, it's going to be kind of uneven. And you'd like to have the point right in the center. So we're going to do something in addition to this. Next slide. Okay. Cut 5/8 of an inch off each end of off one end of each of the pieces. So the 5/8 inch piece off the piece that has a dovetail, and you cut 5/8 of an inch off the piece that has the dovetail socket. Next slide. Okay, so you cut both of those off, and then you take those pieces, there they are, next slide. And you glue it in on one end. You take the one that's got the socket in it, and you glue a dovetail into that socket on one end, and you do the reverse of that on the other piece that has the tail on it, and you glue those together, all right? And now you have that, okay? You can use it as a measuring stick, but you still don't have that nice point on there so you can get into point. So, in order to make it so that you can do that, you cut off as you can see, the top part of that little piece you glued on. That one. And there you go. So you cut off that part, you can sand it a little bit so that, but you know, the part that has the groove in it is the lower part there. And that other piece won't slide all the way to the end because it has the metal part that won't go past it. So we need to cut some of that off. So this happens to show the groove part, but you cut some of that off the end, the opposite end from where you just glued that block. You cut that off, and you end up with something that looks like that. Next slide. And you can have that much cut off of one end of the stick, and you're going to make your point on the opposite end from what you're seeing there. Okay, there it is, finished. And I think I have a picture of it turned up on the edge. Yeah, you can see the end, and you end up with a point. Now, if there's any question in my mind that, unless you're a lot quicker than I am, you didn't follow all of it. I understand. You can get this PowerPoint presentation if you have PowerPoint on the computer. If you get in touch with me, I'll send it to you, and it leads you through each of these steps. If you don't have PowerPoint, I think there's a way to convert PowerPoint to PDF.
I can put it out on the website.
Okay.
Actually, with the video.
Put it up on the website. All right, even better. So it'll be available for you if you want to make these. And I have a bunch of them here. I had thought we would actually do this presentation in person, and I would give away some of these. But some of these lucky guys here today, they're going to get them, and I hope they'll use them and figure out how to make them. But they're fun to make. They are really useful. And one way you can use these, by the way, is when you're taking a measurement, if you want to take several measurements, you can mark directly on this thing, and then go make another measurement and go and mark there. But you need to write on the stick what you just did, and when that project is over, you need to get a good eraser and go back and erase all that. Otherwise, next time you do one, you're going to cut the wrong pieces. That's the art of the the story stick measuring stick presentation I had for today. I think that's covered all the items I had in the plan here. And if somebody has questions, I'm not sure how this is working out. I don't know how well it's going to work because it is the first time we've done it. If we have any difficulty and I can't get your questions answered today, my number is in the book. You can call me, and if you really need to see a demo, you can come to my shop and I'll show you how to make it.
We were thinking the best way to do it would be to have them send a message or a chat message.
They can unmute their microphone and
everybody does it, and we'll get a lot of feedback.
Yeah.
Why don't we, David, bring us here, tell us what we need to do.
Let's anybody have a question? Let's unmute your microphone, and there you go. Angie Burbank, go ahead.
I was just messing with you. I was saying hello.
We hear you.
Don, you have a question?
I figured I'd just be like Angie and just say hello to everybody, raise my hand.
Leslie? Unmute your microphone.
I'm just saying hello and thank you. I've seen some videos on Story Sticks. Is it pretty easy to erase your pencil marks for a different project?
Yeah.
Did you already cover that?
Yeah, I have a polymer eraser I like really well. I've done those at a time because I use a lot of erasers, but they'll take it off clean as a whistle. If I understood the question, I think the question was, can you erase those? And you can do it without sanding them off, but erase, especially on a nice hardwood like maple, you can erase that off quickly and use the Story Stick over and over. Did I answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Yeah, Lou? What's up, buddy? There you go.
Hi, Bill, I was fascinated by the comment on the vise about not using the outside part of the vise for as a vise. What is that for?
Well, it's there. Can we get on this thing again? We're going to try to get a picture for you. You have it? Do you see me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. It's there really to provide a place to mount this bar. And this bar is there to prevent the vise from racking. That's really what this is for. I'm not saying you can't use it as part of the vise. It's just not intended, and in the books that I have on workbenches, they say it's really not intended to be used as a vise. And I think it puts a little bit of, if you plant way out towards the end, it puts a little bit of, it puts a racking function on the vise. If I had this vise and wanted to use that, I'd probably use it, but I would be a little cautious. You know, it's all made out of wood here, and you put a lot of force with a screw like this. So the real intent was to have this space and these holes be where you would put the force because it's close to the axis of the screw. But if you want to use it,
Set it up where this is in the background. I won't say anything.
I didn't get that, John. Say that again. Okay, did I answer the question about the vise?
Yes, you did. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you for the presentation. I love it.
Thank you. Oh, by the way, I want to ask you to do this. I'd like to get some feedback, and since you guys are running this, maybe one of you could act as a clearinghouse for feedback on the whole process, which I think we all want, and particularly on how well I did this particular job. I'm interested if there's, because we're likely to do this again, and I'd like to make it worth their while. So you can give the feedback.
Send it to info@alabamawoodworkersguild.org.
Okay, did y'all get that?
Yep.
Info, INFO, @alabamawoodworkersguild.org. And we'll get it.
Yeah, so my brother-in-law wants you to say, he said, you don't know how you look until you get your picture. So poor English, but you know, the point's there. And so feedback is always appreciated.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
First of all, thanks a lot, Bill, and everybody else who came in there this morning to do this. It's a terrific presentation. My question about Story Sticks is, how do you remember, when you make all those little marks on it, how do you keep track of which marks are for what?
Okay, you're right on the Story Stick. And on this big Story Stick, I run on the Story Stick, and you can, I've read several articles on Story Sticks after I started using them. You can use one Story Stick that's say 6 inches wide and use one half of it to lay out the vertical components and the other half to lay out the horizontal components of the cabinet. And you write on there that this is vertical and this is horizontal, and every place you put a mark, you write what that mark is related to. Now, it didn't take a whole lot of writing and scribbling. The old hands, I've seen them do this before. They move through Story Stick marking really quick, and they have their own method of locating where things are. Today, I'm sure they take a digital camera and make a picture too, spacer and bring it in and lay it all out for them. You know, I don't have that equipment, and probably gonna make a few cabinets. I would use the storage stick. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. Thank you. Great
You're
idea. The horizontal, vertical, two sides of the story stick.
Yeah, you can have one storage stick that does both. But you do have to write on them and keep up with what's what. I use front and back sometimes, which I did on this cabinet where I laid out these 6 rollers. And it really does help a lot. It seems like such a simple thing to do when you have all sorts of sophisticated measuring instruments and so on. But I really much prefer the storage stick where I can use it. And where I use the sliding storage sticks, I go straight to the saw and set the fence or the miter gauge with the stop block, and don't ever know what the inches and millimeters and all that sort of stuff are. I don't need to know that. And the results have been really, really good. Any other questions?
Okay, let's turn it back over to Van.
Thank you. Good job, Bill.
Hello, hello.
Yeah, Dennis?
Yeah, okay. Bill, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Yeah, on the story stick that you made towards the end there, that you made, obviously one stick isn't going to work, you know, depending, you might have big projects, little projects. So I guess the thing to do, if you're making those, make a set. Is that right?
That's exactly right. And, you know, I didn't do that with these. There's a couple of sizes here. But what I do, I sometimes make small boxes mostly. And I need to between rabbits and broods and so on. And broods usually about 1/8 of an inch thick. So I'll just take 2 regular sticks and use them. But if you want to use the ones with the sliding dovetails or the Veritas, yes, you know, you might start off with one that's, if you're doing cabinets, 10 inches long collapse. And then you can do one that's 18 inches long. And that way, the 10-inch one and the 18-inch one will overlap, and you will be able to make anything in there. But yes, you're right. That's a good point, too. You need to have several of them. If you're just going to use regular sticks, can you see these sticks?
Yeah.
Okay, if you're just going to use regular sticks, you still have a handful of them. They don't take up much space, and I make them out of scrap material, whatever, longer one. I really like to make them, you know, it's whatever you like. The darker woods don't show your marks as well. And so I'll use these for lots of things, but I'm working on a set of cabinets for habitat, for instance. I would use this one because it has a clamp on it, and it's of a size so that I can measure those back panels and other things that I need to measure. If we're laying out the drawers, I can get the measurement from corner to corner without having to pick up the tape and worry about adding the inch and all that stuff. And do it quickly so that we can adjust our clamp so that we pull it into square. Real important on the door, by the way, that they be square.
Did you make those, Bill, or that
I bought the hardware. They sell the hardware. And then these are 3/4 inch wide, 1/4 inch thick. That's all there is to this. Put a couple of wood screws in that. And Lee Valley sells Veritas brand. And several people I know have them, and they've all been pleased with it so far.
It sounds like, I'm sorry, it's Dennis again. Sounds like what you talk about, you could make them overlap, just barely overlap, so you've got all the dimensions covered. Sounds like you could make maybe only 3 of them and have pretty good long dimension covered.
I believe so. I haven't looked at the arithmetic yet. I made some that my needs primarily, and then when I made these for this presentation, I used the board I had, what it went to, and to make them more universal, though, I think you could sit for a few minutes and pick out, say, 3 that would cover almost everything you need to do. Any other questions? Well, I appreciate the questions we got. I always enjoy them. Thank you.